what do people think about when they think of your product? Do they think about you or they think about your competitors? That is,
chances are I'm coming to your platform with that knowledge that Samsung does 1, 2, 3. So your brand building is, are you the guy who offers the best after sales services? Maybe Samsung doesn't come with a charger, you offer it free. Are you the guy who offers it at the best price? If it's a supermarket, are you the guy who has deals almost every week? Small businesses, priority should always be performance marketing. And even if you choose to engage with an influencer for brand awareness, usually such arrangements have key KPIs tied in, which sometimes is
brand building versus performance marketing. What is right for a business? That is our discussion today. Welcome to the Marketing Matters podcast, where we talk about marketing trends, technology, and everything in between. I'm your host, Victoria, and with me is my co-host,
Steve. Welcome.
Welcome. Marketing has evolved over the years. There was that age not a long time ago where we had the traditional marketing, of which most companies who were having most companies that had a budget allocated most of their funds on traditional marketing, and they will spend more money on marketing that will involve more of brand awareness, like the billboards, the TV, the radio, and the likes. Then came the advancement of digital age. I think from 2020 until to date, there's a rise of most companies coming into the digital space where we have the social media and the likes. So is brand building dead? Steve, do you think that brand building is dead, or are we just addicted to the metrics? So I feel like I feel like companies are on the extreme. Either they are more on the brand and others are more on the metrics. But maybe before we even dive deep to understand the two or to know which one works right now, you can help us get the understanding or a brief of both. What is brand building versus what is performance marketing?
Okay. Thanks, Vicky. I think well, different companies will do different approaches. Usually, most do a blend of both brand building as well as performance marketing. But just for purposes of getting this discussion going, performance marketing to me is marketing that is focused on achieving specific goals. So it's marketing that has key performance indicators. You're not just doing posts. You're not just doing reels or videos or whatever kind of digital marketing and digital engagements. You have a clear goal, and that goal could be financial. That goal could also be just about, even brand can be part of your goal. But most of the time, performance marketing involves you doing a campaign with a specific goal in mind. An example could be that you do a campaign, or a campaign here means just digital marketing. You do a marketing campaign on the digital platforms with a goal of either increasing your page followers. It could be you are doing a campaign, you want to increase your sales in your e-commerce platform. You could be doing a campaign that you want to maybe just grow followership, or you want to increase clicks to maybe a certain video or a certain platform or channel that you're driving traffic. If you're doing a mobile app or another platform where that people need to sign up on, or an event, it could also be that one. So if you're doing any campaign with a goal that has clear key performance indicators, which are usually defined by the type of product, then that would be considered performance marketing. And now when you come to brand building is more or less growing your identity or defining your identity in the digital space, using now what we call organic method. So it would be you're trying to build a brand, and of course the ultimate goal is, of course, most of the time to grow sales or to increase networks or to sell a product. But ultimately, somebody who is doing a brand building campaign, most of the time they are using organic or non-paid means, which could be you're trying to define who you are or what your product is or what you guys do, and consistently do that long enough for people to take keen interest and maybe engage with you in whatever level that you need them to. So the main difference for me, if I were to summarize it, is performance marketing usually is paid, and brand building is more or less organic. Performance marketing could be maybe long term, short term, because it's a campaign for those who have done campaigns, and brand building is usually something that is ongoing. It never really ends.
Yeah. Yeah, that is so right. And thank you so much, Steve. Yeah, performance marketing, just as you said, something that marketing that you want to be able to track your results. Are you looking at conversions? Are you looking at leads? Everything that is measurable, just as you've said, like number of followers, number of clicks, number of sales that you've made. So, as you've said, paid, where you would use uh, tools like Google Ads, Facebook Pixel, email retargeting, like you're just using tools that will be able to track your results directly. And then, of course, brand, for me, brand, I would say, um, marketing that involves, um, that will make marketing that would help your audience remember you even when you're not talking about, even when they're thinking about your product, they remember you. So how will people feel about you, or how would people um what do people think about when they think of your product? Do they think about you or they think about your competitors? That is basically the brand building that you're talking about. For example, if you talk about um, soft drinks, what do you think about? Like, what's the first thing that will come in your mind is Coke because of the brand building. So, what do people, or what does your audience feel or think about when a product similar to what you're selling is mentioned? So that is basically what brand building is. And of course, most of the time it's not paid. Okay, it is paid but not paid. It is paid in the sense that you might need to pay an agency to help you come up with the different artworks. But in terms of the paid, like paid to be able to get the direct results, then that is what Steve is saying. It is not paid, but of course you have to involve some costs for you to be able to get the right artworks and to reach the creativity to reach the right audience.
Yeah, I
Now,
think you
I
know
don't know. Yes.
the non-paid bit is on the visibility. You're not paying to be in
Yes.
people's.
Yes. 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 So I've experienced many clients. You know, we deal with small, medium-sized businesses where budget is of the constraint, and I've seen clients who would tell you, "I've already spent 10,000. Eh? I'm not getting 5 times back the money I spent. Maybe we should change this advert. Maybe we should change the audience. Maybe we should stop the advert. How comes it's not working?" So when you look at most SMEs or businesses that are more focused on the metrics, sometimes they find they are very impatient when they are trying to run the ads because they expect it to work as immediately as possible. So I don't know, what do you think about the performance metric? Is it the performance type of marketing for you? Do you feel like small businesses are supposed to focus on that, or do you feel that they need to also focus on the brand building, or they have to do both? For you, what do you think, for the people who feel that their budget is so constrained?
Budget is always constrained. Even the biggest brands, even the biggest companies complain about. The marketing teams will tell you we don't have enough budget. So budgeting is always constrained. But before I even answer what maybe a small business should be doing, I suspect that why people have this negative view or have this skeptical view about spending on ads is because of maybe poor past experience or unmet expectations in their previous lives, or even a failure to understand how the digital marketing space works. So there could be several factors, and it really, in my view, it most of the time when customers or when brand businesses that we deal with are obsessed over the cost, usually it's sometimes we just failure of understanding of how that sales cycle should work. and we try to get them there. But in terms of whether a business should be focusing on brand building or performance marketing, I think any business really should have an element of performance marketing. It's a very different world, and unless you are able to, or unless you're patient enough to grow your brand or to grow that identity organically, like we've said, brand building takes time. Unless you are patient enough to do that and you have the resources to, run your brand building without necessarily depending on ads, then good for you. But for most businesses, usually they will need to do brand building. In fact, I dare say for most small businesses, brand building comes secondary because most of the small businesses don't sell unique products. So if you're selling maybe products that are if you're selling, let's say you're selling something like you are running a wholesale that sells what good these household items, for the most part that business could be done by anybody. So what you just need is to be in front of somebody's face and share with them why they should come to you. And usually the strategy there is usually pricing. So in that instance where a product is not even unique, then I would say that for that type of business, you should prioritize on performance marketing, because in that sense, you are not the brand building of that product has been done by the company that is selling that product. Say you're doing baby items and you're selling diapers. If you're selling a diaper like Huggies or Morflix or whatever, the brand building is being done by the company, and all you need to do is just be in people's faces, because they don't need to trust you as the seller. They just need to trust that the brand can serve their needs. So for small businesses, I view it as I would prioritize performance marketing. And why? Because you need quick results, because most small businesses need that cash flow to be able to even support brand building, because brand building, like we said, is long term, and sometimes the results are not even as tangible. The beauty with performance marketing is you are clear. I did this campaign. My goal here is to get 10,000 followers by the end of this campaign, maybe 3 months campaign. And the platforms, Meta, Google Ads, LinkedIn, and what's X, are actually designed to blend or to push for performance marketing. So they are structured to incentivize and to help you achieve those goals through performance marketing. That's actually the main goal of most of these digital market, these social media platforms, when you go to the ads section. So I would say that because of even how the platform is structured and the nature of the business, most SMEs should be getting their performance marketing strategy right, and then of course doing their brand building. And brand building here is not necessarily that you are now known to be selling. You can be known to be selling the diapers, but brand building in that case is a bit more nuanced, in the sense that your brand building is through maybe customer experience, it is through your responsiveness, it is through maybe your pricing. So your brand is not tied to the product you're selling, but tied to who the business really is. So it's I don't know if it makes sense, but it's usually very different when you're dealing with SMEs or small businesses, because most of their products are not theirs, and the brand building is in relation to their interaction with the customer.
Yeah. Yeah, I think you're very right, Steve. For small businesses who most of the time their budget is a bit tight, um, the the first or the priority that they will give will be the performance marketing. Yeah, but again, I think for me, I feel like there has to be a blend of the two. As much as you're focusing more on the performance marketing, because you want results. For you to be able to get more money to spend more money on the adverts, you need more of the results than the awareness. But I think there has to be a blend, because as much as we always feel like performance marketing is cheaper, it is not cheap. Because you have to keep
Nobody feels
spending on
performance
the
marketing
adverts
is cheap.
every now and then.
Uh,
Yeah, no, like most of the clients feel like that is the way to go because it brings results.
mm,
But at the end of the day, it means you're always spending on the adverts for you to convert. But unlike when you, as you had mentioned earlier, that brand brand building is a long term. It's a long term strategy. That means that eventually it will reach a point where you are getting referrals, you are getting customers who are coming because of your name. You build your name so big. So you are talking about if I'm a small business and I'm selling a brand that is already known. For example, if I deal with phones and I'm selling Samsung phones. So Samsung already has its brand. It's spending its money on the brand awareness.
Awareness.
For me, as a small business, my focus is um, my focus is not really selling Samsung per se, but my focus is selling my brand in a way that when someone wants to buy Samsung, he considers or remembers me as a business. So the brand building, I'll not do it in that massive way of selling the Samsung, but I'll make it in a way that when people want to buy phones, they remember the company that this company. So the marketing that I'm doing online, as much as I'm doing the performance marketing, the other marketing that I'm doing is also helping people know what I'm selling, such that when anytime they want to buy, of course they'll not go to the Samsung as a company, but they'll remember me and consider to buy from me. So that is the brand building
They
that I
might.
think the small
The question
businesses
here
should
is,
focus on.
how
I've
would
seen
you do it?
companies
Give
do
us an
that.
example of how you do it.
Okay, I'm thinking like I'm looking at, let's say, supermarkets. Supermarkets are selling everything. They are selling everything that is the same. It's similar. You go to, maybe the
Mhm.
difference will be if they are making their own bread and the likes. But when it comes to snacks, when it comes to tissue, it's like they're selling everything that is similar to what another supermarket will be selling. So, what would make you consider buying maybe from Naivas as opposed to Namagunas or Powerstar? So it
Mm.
is the brand. They build their
Yes,
name
yes.
for you to consider them as opposed to their competitors. So that's what I'm saying. Like for small businesses, you might be selling common products, but you still want people, as much as you're doing the performance metrics, and you want people to focus on you. Like anytime they're thinking, okay, I want to be able to, I want to buy TV sets. Who should I consider? Especially right now with the digital space, you realize that people would go. There are so many people selling what you're selling, but people will come to you because of the way you have positioned yourself in the market, and that is the brand we are talking about. Yeah. So I don't know if you
Yeah,
got
I
me
think
on that.
it just goes back to what we were saying. Yeah, it just goes back to what we were saying, what you said earlier, what you're known for. And so, tying to that description of what you're known for, in that classic case of Samsung and Naivas or a supermarket case, and also what now helping our audience understand what I meant by that, the brand, when you're dealing with products that are not yours, your brand building is different. It's not, you're not selling the features of the product itself. Your product is, your service becomes your product,
Yes.
not necessarily the product you're selling. So
The
Samsung is a phone.
experience. Yeah.
It is sold by Samsung Corporation, and you're selling it with like any other person. So your service is the brand. And why I say then
Yes.
the brand building there is a bit nuanced, or it's different, is Samsung, when they are selling you when they're doing their campaigns, they're telling you, this is the best phone for your car, for taking selfies. This is the best phone for what it has these features, it has this memory, it has this battery. When you're selling it, chances are I'm coming to your platform with that knowledge that Samsung does 1, 2, 3. So your brand building is, are you the guy who offers the best after sale services? Maybe Samsung doesn't come with a charger, you offer it free. Are you the guy who offers it at the best price? If it's a supermarket, are you the guy who has deals
Yeah.
almost every week? And why is your deals, are your deals more are your deals better tuned to my needs than another brand? Or even location thing, now that becomes part of your brand. Are you everywhere? Is it that if I needed that phone, that I would get it
Yeah.
in the most convenient way possible? So the brand building there, people don't even know that they're doing brand building, but that is the brand building. Your offers, your pricing strategy, your location strategy, your content in terms of how you sell that phone, or how you make people understand the needs for that phone. So it's a bit different, such that your service then
Yeah.
becomes your brand, and the product is just now what you end up selling. Because with big brands,
Yeah. It's so
the
true.
awareness is usually done on your behalf, and that's why again I insist performance marketing works, because you are selling a product that somebody else is doing the brand building for, the main one at least. You
Yeah.
are now you're just now getting into people's faces. It's a bit easier than
Yeah.
if you're coming up with maybe baby pampers that people had never even heard of. Now you are like an actual entrepreneur building a business that would require really both brand
Yeah.
building as well as performance marketing. So it's a question I think about chicken and egg. Which comes first? Do you do brand building? Do you do
Yeah.
performance marketing? And I opine that you should, as a small business, performance marketing takes priority. Not to say that you should not be doing brand building.
Yeah. So true. Yeah, and now that you're even talking about the two, so does it mean that you cannot be able to measure your return on investment on brand building?
It's hard, I think. It's really hard. I suspect, maybe you could tell me, but I suspect even the digital platforms that
Think
we
about
work
even
with.
the influencers.
What about them?
They do more when you look at their way of marketing, it's like mostly it's brand building. So even
It's
as you
brand
answer, maybe you
awareness.
can
It's
also,
brand awareness.
yes, brand awareness. Yeah. So
Uh-huh.
even as you answer that question, maybe you can think of them and reference.
Yeah, again, that's why it's hard even for SMEs to do brand building, because even an influencer, the influencer is doing your brand awareness, which
Yeah.
is brand awareness can be done in very many ways. But if you're using maybe influencer marketing, brand the if an influencer brings people to your page, assuming you're running a social
Mm-hmm.
IG page that sells those phones, or you're a supermarket that you need people to know
Mm-hmm.
deals are everywhere. If you're using an influencer who is coming to that platform for who is bringing people to your platform for one reason or another, is that it becomes, it stops being now, depending on how the engagement is. Usually what happens is you would give the influencer uh targets, which you're saying, I need to get 50,000 clicks in my site by maybe, because you're a big influencer, I need to get 50,000 clicks in 1 month. That is performance marketing. You're just using influencer marketing to do the performance marketing. However, your goal with an influencer could also be just general awareness. And that one can be measured maybe by how many people viewed your page, how many people, the
Mm-hmm.
inquiries that they did, if there was any customer feedback or any experiences that people, based on how the influencer engaged them, what people wanted you to have done to do more or to offer them more. So even in influencer marketing situations, there can be performance marketing depending on the engagement. So you would find that some people or some influencers, depending on the campaign, that they are really driving people to go to maybe click a site, or they're driving people to buy a product, or others are just telling folks that this brand exists, and of course if you can buy, that is now a secondary goal. And I think we covered it some time back, where we said when you're doing a digital marketing campaign, primary goal, you have primary and secondary goal. So this the goal for an influencer who is just telling guys, hey, Vicky's shop sells iPhone. I went and got my iPhone. This was the experience. That's brand building. But this one now that tells, hey, if you want the best deals, come to Vicky's shop. This is the price of this. So that becomes a bit more of a performance marketing. So it's like I said, very nuanced, and depending on how you run your campaign, then you would know for yourself. Even the audience might not know you're doing brand building. They might think it's brand building, but maybe it's performance marketing. So it can be both. The measurability of brand building is usually a bit nuanced, and as a marketer, you usually get into a lot of back and forth with the finance team and the people who are in charge of allocating resources, because telling a company that I spent 50,000 shillings per month so that I could grow my followers or my video views by 10,000 per month is usually a very tough conversation to convince, especially the people who want actual ROI, especially if you are a business that needs that money. So that's why I was saying, for small businesses, priority should always be performance marketing. And even if you choose to engage with an influencer for brand awareness, usually such arrangements have key KPIs tied in, which sometimes is, I need you to increase my clicks, I need you to increase the people who are coming or visiting IG page or Facebook or whatever page that I'm trying to run. So it's an awareness campaign which is brand building, but it has some KPI or some bit of performance marketing embedded in it. Now, if you are a brand that can afford to do heavy awareness, that is usually the best strategy, because after that awareness, then in a campaign, usually you start with awareness, then you do the actual product and actual call to action, and then you do sustenance. But if you don't have, because most companies or most SMEs can't sustain 6-month campaigns, 1-year campaigns, where they slowly build awareness of the product or the service, then they start doing conversions, and then they move to sustenance. Now, in that case, you are forced to do performance marketing and now use the organic bit, which is now the normal posting, so that when somebody comes to your page, you've pulled them through the performance marketing tool, which could be that you're doing ads, or you're using that influencer, or you're running a YouTube ad or whatever type of campaign or of ad that you'd be running. But when they come to your page, now you are consistently building that brand, or building that expectation of your competence, or whatever you want that customer to know you for, through now the organic post. So I would say a clever strategy is pull them in through the ads, and then, because most customers these days, previously I would get an ad and I would just click it and buy. These days, before I get an ad, I'll probably like that page or start following that page, and then I start exploring that page to see whether these guys are actually all they tout themselves to be, because we've also seen a lot of scams in that ad space. So when you are doing that campaign, make sure also your page is also in a manner that would lead to more conversions, because when I land on the page after I've seen the ad, I'll start scrolling to see what you're about, and if it's not consistent with your ads, then you're just wasting money on
Yeah.
your market. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, as you have been talking, so many things have just been running in my mind. I was just even
Mm.
now I don't even know which direction to go. But there's so
That's the
so
power
much.
that's the beauty of a podcast. You can just share what you
Yeah,
share. It
there's
will
so
be
much,
figured
so
out in
much
there.
that I've grasped, and I'm also just thinking of sharing my thoughts. Now, maybe just to add to what you've said on how you can measure your return on investment on brand building. Yeah, it is somehow a bit challenging. Like, you will not have uh, direct way of measuring, in the sense that you will say, I've spent this money and I'm expecting to get this money. But at least you will have things that you can point out to say there is growth in this area. For example, just as you've mentioned, organic traffic growth. If you're, let's say, doing one of the way you can build your brand is by sharing content or educating people on your product, and maybe you're doing it on TikTok or LinkedIn or YouTube. So the organic traffic growth will show that there is actually some level of brand awareness being uh, done, and also people are aligning to your brand. Or if you're selling your product, and let's say you have, the more you make people aware about the brand, about your brand, then you'll have a higher customer lifetime value. Like, people will be engaging with you anytime they would want to buy a product that you're selling or similar to what you're selling. Maybe they bought from you a phone. They're likely to come back to you to buy a charger or a screen guard, because of just how you have enabled people to understand the brand, or your brand, or people to choose you anytime they're thinking of your product or something around your product. And of course, the mentions, the likes, the shares, just as you've mentioned, especially when you're talking about you working with influencers and the likes. And even as we talk about those influencers, I was just trying to think, is it because before, when you look at companies when they were doing brand building, they were really doing brand, like they will spend millions of shillings on the brand building, and they will not really ask for the metrics. But right now it's like, um even the influencers are now being pushed to bring the metrics, and their main purpose was for the brand awareness. So is it that companies are also not understanding what brand building is, or is it that the influencers are also overpricing their value in the sense that companies are trying to think, okay, this price is too much. For 3 posts, you're charging me how much? Okay, then I need to see my money coming back. Or is it that companies are also, or is it just also because of the change in technology and the marketing blend of the traditional and digital marketing, where companies feel like everything you're doing has to align both in the brand and also in the metrics? What do you think?
I think it's all of them really, because when when companies started doing digital marketing, it was a very green area, and you could get away with a lot of things. And so it was easy for a marketer or the chief commercial officer to tell the company that, you know what, we've been spending money on billboards, we've been spending money on newspaper ads, and we really have not had a way of measuring it, but we've been spending it and it's been working. So they just translated that view into now the digital space, which was like, in any case, we have always been doing brand building, whether we got results or not. It has been like part of us, especially for the big brands. They had always, because of when you go to marketing school, you understand the power of a brand, and I dare say for our audience, whether you are doing it intentionally or you don't care about the brand, you are building a brand either way. Like the brand, it's not even about you being intentional on that. Whether you're saying I am building my brand or you don't care about your brand, there is a brand being built. So
Mhm.
that's just something for audience to note, that your brand is is like who you are. You can't even control it. So you have to be
Mhm.
either intentional or just let the masses decide what your brand will be. Now back to your question, which is whether things have changed or why things have changed. There are several factors which you have already highlighted, most of them, but I would say the main one has been that also there has been a shift in terms of audiences, or the companies that are running these types of campaigns, especially the influencer marketing, feeling
Mhm.
like they are overpaying for a service that they would have as well just done an ad for themselves. So if you're a big brand and maybe you've been working with one influencer, there's also those rules of diminishing returns, that ultimately after a while you have talked to all the people you could talk that follow this influencer. So after a while, it no longer justifies you paying this guy maybe 250,000 per video, and he or she is doing maybe 3 videos a month or something, when you could reach new audiences. So the challenge there becomes that if I'm a marketing manager in that firm, I'm thinking, this guy has already given me his audience. So I need to get my company, or my campaign needs a bigger or a different type of demographic, and I only still the finance guy is still giving me my 250,000 for awareness campaigns. So there's a disconnect between the person running the marketing and the person giving the money, because they are saying you are able to do with 250,000. If I can increase that allocation, maybe just let it reach 300,000. Now, if I'm a marketer, because I still have expectations from my company, and now because they have been accustomed to seeing these reports of, oh, okay, we spent 250,000, we got 50,000 likes, we got these types of queries, we got these types of clicks on the site. So that becomes the benchmark of what they expect when you pay 250,000. So that before it was just, let's just try it, and whether it works, it's good, whether it doesn't. But the problem is when now you start reporting, because when it works, you usually get this temptation to report to the metrics, even on an awareness campaign. Now when you start reporting that, then the management or the people who are making decisions are now accustomed that whether it's campaign awareness building or whether it's performance marketing, all of them should have results. And when you have that, then you end up now start thinking, okay, maybe this, I can't now be spending one 250,000 on one. Now, can I get micro influencers, or can I do it alone? Do I need to hire just a social media manager who is creative and they'll do some content and we just boost them? So it is an evolution, if you ask me, of how this digital marketing space is getting at. And now, of course, as we see AI, then even influencer marketing will be very hard, because AI will be able to create those types of, because sometimes influencer marketing is just how that person or that influencer is able to blend with the audience. So if you can find, for some brands, they go for beautiful ladies to be influencers. So if you can have an AI generate almost a likeness of such a beautiful person, and you just now do heavy spending. You control that resource and what they say and everything. Then
Mm.
a brand would also pivot towards that. So it's an evolution, and there are many factors which I would say you've already pointed out most of
Yeah.
them. But ultimately, I think it's just an evolution of the space and the people making decisions, because resources are getting more and more strained. There's now an expectation that a performance marketing and brand building are now, if you're spending money on getting views or getting visibility, then I might as well now start adding, okay, what about the clicks to the site? Okay, what about the queries that came in? Okay, what about product sales? So yeah, I would say
Yeah.
long-winded, but I hope
Yeah.
you get it.
Yeah, I think for me, I would just add on what you're saying. I'll give two of my opinions or observations. For one, I would say for the influencers, uh, I sometimes feel like some of them are overpricing their value. I know the
Okay.
value of a brand.
For
It's
service.
it's a perception per se, but I think sometimes they do overprice their value, and it is there's creativity that is involved, and I know we have so many of the uh, content creators who are very creative, but at the end of the day, the creativity has to convince their audience in the long term to be able to buy the product. Because I've seen so many of the content creators, you laugh about the the humor of what has been done, but now you are not convinced to buy the product. I think that is the challenge that even most companies would face. Like, okay, people have laughed about it, and but have they convinced their audience? And most of the time, when you look at these content creators, I've seen now there are some content creators who are already way ahead because they are trying now to do events. They are setting up events where they call in people to
Brand.
pay for the event. And you see, when they do that on their own, then brands are able to see, okay, if this person is able to pull people to come for his event of 1,000 people, then that means this person has influence to the people that they are following on social media. Remember, there was a time when we were on politics, and people would say your Twitter followers or your there was this politician who was having so many followers on X and social media, and like it needs to convert to
Both.
yeah, to the votes. So I think there's that balance where content creators, if they can find a balance or find a way in which, as much as you're doing the creativity aspect of it, but how you're able to pull your audience to convince them to buy your product. I think that's where there's a gap. And then secondly, I'm also thinking at the brands. Previously, you would have very few brands who will spend money on brand building. Like you'll have, let's say, companies that will spend a lot of money on brand building, making all the other companies to be too small. Like for example, if you see Coke, they spend so much money on their brand building. When you look at, there was a time when you wanted to buy, let's say, a soap or detergent, you'll think of Omo. When you wanted to buy diaper products, you will think of Pampers. But now, many companies have understood marketing. Many companies are now coming, spending money on the brand building. Therefore, it becomes like it's a competition. You're always who's spending more on what, who's more creative than the other. So I think that also has brought the challenge of why you do not only focus on brand, but also think of how you can do the performance metrics. Because you now, when you want to buy detergent, you'll think of so many brands you've seen. You have, I don't know, Persil, you have Sunlight, you have, and everyone is convincing you in one or another. So you have options. When you want to buy your phone, there was a time it was only Nokia. But imagine right now you have Apple, you have Samsung, you have Techno, you have, so we have every brand competing, and each brand is trying to sell their own. So it becomes like right now customers don't have like just one idea on their mind. They still have but I saw Oraimo was saying that. Remember, even when we were talking about a phone, I saw Oraimo was saying that they have good cameras. No, Samsung has good. So you have so many customers have options. It's not like uh 10 years ago where they'll consider, hey, I want to go to a university, Nairobi University. Right now, you have options.
The
And also,
University of Nairobi.
yeah, now it's no longer the every company has tried to up their game. So it's now
Mm.
about how creative, how much experience are you giving to the customer, how relatable are you to the customers for them to always, as much as they have had this other brand, they are still remembering your brand. So it's a competition, and then there's a lot of change is happening so fast. Everything, every day change. So moving with speed is also an advantage to companies who would want to build the brand and also do the performance metrics. Yeah.
That's
So
true. But for me, in response to your earlier comment on influencers and overpricing or overvaluing themselves, there is a lot of demand and supply, and if everybody wants to get this influencer, you are paid. You if somebody else is willing to pay that person 250,000 for a video reel, and you want to pay 50,000 for the same video reel, then it's a matter of what the market has priced. So
true.
it could be that well, you don't feel the value, but somebody has a bigger budget, and how they measure value is different from how you measure value. So that's why I was saying even this influencer marketing business and brand awareness is evolving. So it's very
True.
hard to know who is really worth 250,000, who is worth a million shillings for a post. Yes.
Yeah, because now again, the law of demand and supply, we have now so
Mm.
many influencers.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah, we are
we
also
have so
very
many
creative.
micro, but you have so many influencers. But remember, Vic, you engage an influencer because of the audience, right?
Yes,
So
they are
you can have
growing,
many influencers. You can have many influencers, but there is an audience. Why is a person like Jeff still able to get influencer gigs for big brands? Because while there are many other guys who could help you reach multitudes of Kenyans on different platforms, he is still able to demonstrate that there is an audience that still would engage with him in a different level than they would with any other different
which is
influencers.
true.
So there are very many influencers, and in the same way there are very many products. But you would find somebody else is able to sell one product for 10 times what the other person is selling because of the brand and the reputation they have built for
What I'm
themselves. Yeah.
saying, Steve, is I
Mm.
understand what you're saying, but because there are many, everyone is also working towards that. Like their followership is growing, their content is growing on a daily basis. The speed, like there's a lot of change happening. An influencer who was so good like a year ago,
Mm.
today he might also not be so very good because there's someone else who has also come up with that
Definitely.
speed. Yeah, that's what I'm trying to say.
But
And
for the
even as
marketer, that's a good thing.
yes, it is. And even as I know this is a very long topic about the pricing and
Mm.
how the market is, which we'll also discuss in a different video. But however, this has been a very good conversation. I hope you have gained something. If you were you only focusing on the metrics or you're focusing on the brand building, this gives you an eye opener on how you can be able to balance both. Otherwise, like, share,
I think
subscribe.
before we close, we can talk about briefly just how do you then build a brand, and how then do you do performance marketing.
Okay. So how
Yeah,
then do
so
you
I'll
build?
cover the brand building bit, and then you can talk about the performance marketing. How then you go about it. We've just been talking about it in abstract manners, where we are assuming the person already knows. Okay, I want to do performance marketing. What do I do? Where do I go? And
Yeah.
so on the brand building is still on the digital platforms. However, what I want to maybe guide you through is then how do you do a brand building, or how do you actually do a brand building. And Vicky had said it very very well earlier that your brand is what people know you for. So whether you are
Mhm.
building your personal brand or you're building the brand for your business, it is just in simple terms, it's what do people think about when they think about you as a business, or if your business is yourself as an influencer. What do they think about? Why should I come to you to say we have 10,000 influencers, but I want to work with you and I'm willing to pay you 200,000? That is your brand.
Mhm.
Because if they know that they can get people who would buy products worth more than 250,000, it then justifies the spend. So you have to really understand or think through what am I about as a business and also as a person, depending on the brand that I'm trying to build. And when you establish that, then ultimately then you start crafting that narrative through now the different awareness. And the awareness can be, like we said, the beauty with brand building, you are allowed to do it organically, so you can create awareness through now those posts, through those threads that people do, through community engagement. Like there's somebody who maybe post something that you think is either inaccurate. When you fact check them on that, when something is trending and people are wondering, like recently people have been wondering, I think about, if you're doing maybe you're an influencer in the educational space, people have been wondering, what is capitation, what is this money that government is now reducing? If you are a teacher or an influencer consultant, you could help people understand that, and that's part of your brand building, because now people, okay, so Vicky is an expert in the educational sector. And then now as you continue with that type of brand building, because you've already understood that I want to be known as the person who understands the education sector. I want to be called for interviews. I want to be writing articles on the paper for where the education sector and CBC is going. Now you've done that, and then you are also part of what you're engaging on is how you're building your audience.
Mm-hmm.
So you're building your audience through different. You can be connecting with the different people in that same field, or you can be connecting with people who are just randomly talking about a space that you're interested in. And slowly but surely, people start knowing that, okay, when you want to know about a business, like personally, I think in my space, because we're in the investments also space, continuously, when there are people who have built a brand around being experts in that space. And usually it was not that they did a post or they advertise themselves. It is that consistently you notice them engaging very articulately on different matters of interest. So if you can do that, then that is part of brand building. It will take time usually. I think if you have no patience, it's very hard to build a brand, because you're crafting a narrative that you want people to about in the long term. So have some patience about that. And then of course, the experience that people have when they interact with you, that is a very serious and something that usually is overlooked. Some people think because they are famous, then they can be, what's the word? I want to use a good word. They cannot be mean. They, because you're famous, so you interact with people the way you want. That is part of experience. So if I'm a marketer or I'm an audience, and you are an influencer or a person of, we have established that you're an authority in the education space, but your interactions with people is usually in a rude manner or in a dismissive manner, then that affects your brand. If you're selling a product, you have touted yourself as the best customer experience, because everybody says we offer the best customer experience, but you don't respond to DMs, you don't do recalls when you know you have sold the person the wrong thing, you don't accept responsibility. That's part of the experience. You don't offer those services as you've promoted yourself to be online. So experience, doing sharing what you know, and of course defining who you are. I was just doing it backwards so that you can also summarize and follow it. And maybe we can have another session that will be longer and more in depth, but in summary, those are the three main things you should focus on.
Yeah, thank you, Steve. Yeah, as you've just mentioned, the brand building value, 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 value. Now, for the performance metrics, which I think I also love compared to, it's one of the is it's an easier or a shorter way of getting your return on investment if you have a small budget. So I think I'll also just mention briefly. First of all, you need to identify the platform that you'd want to use. Either if it's YouTube, is it TikTok, is it Facebook? So you identify which platform you want to use. And then you also identify who is your target audience. You need to know who are you going to target in that platform. Because when you know the people you're going to target, then you'll try to be as specific as possible, either as you're setting the adverts or even on your artwork. You'll be the content that you'll put on your artwork, even if it's image or text, you'll try to be as specific as possible because you understand your target audience. Then, of course, know your budget. you need to know how much are you willing to spend. If you have not done any adverts before, then how much are you willing to risk the first time? Because of course it's not going to like work the first time you just do an advert. You have to give it time to give the algorithm time to understand your kind of audience, to give the audience time to be ready to buy your product, because your competitors have been existing before. So how much are you willing to risk? But again, ensure consistency. So you put a budget that you're comfortable to spend at least on a month to month basis. And then, of course, you now place your ads. You can start with testing the adverts. The ones that work is what you'll optimize on. Then remember to, as what Steve has said, remember to do the answering of the inquiries, the receiving of the calls, because that's what will give you the conversion. And after you've converted, also you can also work on now how can you be able to resell to the same customers, and the cycle continues and continues. Okay, there's no better way in which you can conclude on that. Like, share, subscribe. See you in the next one. Bye.
Bye.